Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be reacting to the #1 Warzone console player. A lot of people have been saying, hey, show me somebody who's good at console. Show me somebody who's good at console. I don't believe people can control recoil on console. So we're going to go ahead and look at a top level player with over a 5.5 KD, which is better than 99.9% of all players, regardless of what platform they're in. And let's go ahead and kind of take a look at this. If you enjoyed the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more of these videos, make sure you hit the like button. Goal in today's video is 10,000 likes. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. If you'd like to check out Reidboy, he is live on Twitch on the daily. So I'll leave a link near the top of the description. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about how they play this. Obviously, this is Rebirth. This is primarily what they're playing recently. They were a leaderboard grinder for Verdansk early on in the game. Once this dropped, they kind of jumped on this, and they have like, I don't know, 2,000 wins or something crazy on Rebirth. So something incredibly high. When it comes to those modes, though, they've dropped 46 kills in solos versus squads in Verdansk, and this is on crossplay on. So he's playing against PC keyboard with 80 FOV, 60 FPS. I think he might be on a PS5 now, so he could be upgraded to there. When it comes to Rebirth Extreme, he dropped 38 a couple times. He also dropped 34 in regular Rebirth, so just a regular one. And then back when Modern Warfare was a thing, he dropped over 200 kills in Ground War. So he's known for dropping high kill games, grinding out camos. You can kind of see some of the gameplay in the background. He's taking on some teams. If the FOV is a little too low for you, I'm sorry. That's kind of what console players deal with on a regular. But there's a couple things of reasons why I chose this specific gameplay. He's not necessarily a meta slave, so I had to kind of look back a couple weeks to try and find a gameplay where he was using the AMAX, because I know a lot of console players say that they struggle with the AMAX because of the visual recoil. And once you kind of figure out that it's visual recoil, you can kind of get over it and start to deal with the recoil. But when it comes to his sensitivity, he plays on a 7 horizontal, so he has a little bit decent movement. Vertical's only a 5, so it's not all that high. His low sense ADS is a multiple of 0.8. His high zoom is 0.9, and he has a dead zone of 0.03, which means he has a relatively new controller. As far as vibration, he has that enabled. He plays on linear response curve, and obviously he plays on a standard aim assist on. And he uses a Battle Beaver controller, so he does have a button, and his button layout is bumper jumper tactical on the Battle Beaver controller. Now, if you go check out his streams, he also has an eye tracker, so you can kind of see how much he's looking up at the top left. Most people, like, if you're actually even semi-decent at the game, you should be looking at the mini-map like every 3 or 4 seconds. Like, if you look at his eyes, if you really want to see how often someone's looking at the mini-map, literally check his eyes, and they're instantly going up to the left, and eye tracker is very visible. But he didn't have a recent gameplay because, like I said, he's not really a meta slave. He was using like the Farah iron sights and some random P90 or something like that. But you can see he controls the recoil on the MAC-10 relatively easy. You can see he has a little bit of a different optic on the AMAX, so definitely try that out if you're on console. I know he also uses the Candid Hybrid or the VLK. I guess it's just a matter of feel. This one works a little bit better as a hybrid because what happens is you can drop it, and then it brings that zoom in a little bit closer, so you can deal with those closer range engagements. And there's definitely scenarios where you can see that maybe, you know, he's playing smart, controlling the weapon despite the visual recoil. And he's doing the tap firing mechanics. There's a lot of things you can do to maximize your ability as a player as people are playing the game. So works out really well there. So he's getting beamed, gets the ability to move. One thing you will notice if you're more of a PC player and you've never really looked at 80 FOV is that all the movement and everything looks slower, but I guarantee you he's slide canceling, turning, everything would look a million times faster, even though the character is moving the same speed if he was playing on a regular like 105, 110, which a lot of players play on. I don't think there's a lot of, I mean, there's obviously a lot, but there's not, the majority isn't playing like on max 120 because everything gets so tiny and it gives this illusion of less recoil. Whereas this one, you're getting a lot more zoom in, so it's actually easier to spot targets when they're within your field of view. When they're outside of it, obviously you won't see them, but those are the trade-offs. It's not all one-sided. But you're going to kind of see how he plays these situations. I think it's him and one of his buddies playing with a random fill. So there was just a random fill in this lobby. They ended up getting some random dude. You're going to kind of see how the match plays out.
They're fighting each other.
So pretty much with Rebirth, it's a lot about situational, like positioning. You want to get team wipes before you move. He almost got too many shots shot from there, but he's able to take that guy out. You can see the pulse on the minimap. Someone is calling in a cluster at the distance. His teammates in, but it's a lot about playing your life so that you can get the team wipe, because basically once the team wipe happens, you're in a much more comfortable spot. Jump down to get a little bit of plates there. It didn't necessarily work out. Kind of searching the area. The guy cuts across. He kind of like, where the hell did this guy go? Like the guy literally disappeared. I have no clue where that guy did. I don't know if he jumped back out the window or what. It was just so fast. But there's no doorway there, and the guy cut into the left. So maybe the door was an illusion as he broke it open. But either way, you can kind of see how he peeks around the map. And everything, like I said, is going to look slower. But I promise you, if he was playing at 105, it would look way faster. So you can see the pulse is going on. He takes a little bit more of an aggressive approach. Jumps down. He knows that there's one more on the further end, a little bit lower. He jumps down, picks up more plates, is able to get some money together. Gets ammo, fully pretty much stocked up at this point. So you can kind of see how this works out. One of the cool things about Reidboy is he's very interactive with his chat. Especially recently he got partnered on Twitch. I know he's been playing a lot with Iron. He also played in Twitch Rivals. So he was one of the few, like there was like 2 or 3 console players at Twitch Rivals. And he was one of them representing the console controller gang. So if you want to like see gameplay that you really relate to, I think he's a perfect player. If you're on console and you really want to be able to see someone who's doing exactly what you're doing on your screen and with your limitations or strengths or whatever you want to call them, working within that boundary. He's just trying to wallbang. You can wallbang a lot of the tents, get hit markers, and it doesn't look like it takes off too much damage. This game could have been a much higher kill game, but at one point you can see he's kind of baiting for them to come out. He's right next to the wall, so he has good cover. And he's like, man, I'm going to wait. I'm going to end up losing too much time there. So he kind of backs off a little bit. Decides to kind of push this area. Heartbeats it real quick. Obviously, the heartbeat's a strong go-to on Rebirth. But you know, it is what it is. Most people hopefully don't have a go. So he's just kind of peeking the area, seeing if anyone's here. There is a heli here. And you can kind of see how his movement is. Like I said, it's going to look slow, but that's what console players play at, which is that 80 FOV. So you can see he's able to pretty much laser that dude. He only had to move because of his sniper, and he ends up getting in this situation where that guy actually hit a pretty solid snipe. He doesn't have self-revive, so it could be a little bit tricky here. There is someone behind him. Looks like maybe they're landing potentially on the loadout on the roof. And then he's kind of snaking a little bit, which is definitely a more advanced movement technique that I don't see enough people use, because what will happen is you'll peek, and what you see is like for this long, but the enemy only sees this. And they don't actually see like your head peek because of the way the visual glitches work. So again, he just backs off that. He's like, man, these dudes are just wasting my time. He's going to go ahead and relocate, try and get to a better position, maybe play the situation a little bit differently. And there's several things that reps give you when you play Warzone. You just get into those situations. And these are things that we've talked about on the channel and like in little doses. But one of the things, he threw the heli right at the guy. Somehow the guy survived. But he's able to make the gunfight happen. He wins. There is a guy, it looks like right below him, could potentially be coming up. And that's why it looks like he plays the position this way. But what happens is there's so many people, so many of you guys that message me and say, well, I get to that top 5 and I just get really nervous and blah, you know, that type of thing. That is very normal. That is very common. But what happens is when you're players like Reidboy who play the game hours on end, you've been in those scenarios so many dang times that you kind of become numb to that. And that's why the measuring pole of success tends to change. I know back in the day, I'd be like, all right, cool, I just want to have a positive KD. And then eventually went, all right, cool, I want to go double positive. I want to make sure I have a 2 KD. You continue moving that bar. Okay, I'm doing pretty solid at getting 2 KD. Now I want to get a nuke. But what happened is when you start going for a nuke, Then you get on like a 22 streak and you're like nervous. Your hands are fidgeting. Your hands are start sweating. You're shaking. You know, you're like hard for to focus. For battle royales, it's a lot that same way. People that struggle to get to the end game, when they do finally get to it, they get to the position where they're going to kind of choke, and they get like, you know, in a terrible spot actually, where they end up choking because they overthought the situation. That's where the reps come in. Once you've been, you know, to the winner's circle 500 times, guess what? The winner's circle doesn't feel as great. I mean, like in terms of stressful, you kind of act like you've been there, so you expect to win. So right now he's already on 21 kills, which is insane for Rebirth. I know that there's several times I'll get like 12 or 13 kills, and that is by far the most in the lobby. Like a lot of these lobbies, there's a couple outliers where they get 10, 12, 13, but for the vast majority, people get like 4 or less kills on Rebirth, which is kind of amazing to me when you actually look at the leaderboard of what people got. He comes back to re-challenge this guy, and we're getting very close to the end. And he's like, oh man, I'm gonna hook this guy up because he's been kind of cool. I'm gonna end up buying him back. There is a guy in the top tower. I think he was waiting for him to peek a little bit longer. Knows the distances are getting jumped here. He can't go ahead and revive his teammate, but he does buy someone back. Unfortunately, his teammate gets thirsted. He doesn't have enough to buy him back. He ends up cleaning up this guy. Nice little easy kill. And the awareness is all there. He heard the guy. He repositioned. That was the team wipe. He did end up getting an extra 500 cash, which is pretty important pretty soon, as we'll see. You can see his teammates kind of circling around, trying to maybe give call outs. This guy jumps down. He pretty much beams him. He optic. He changed the sight, and then he was able to just destroy that guy. So perfect control of that recoil. And a lot of it has to do in playing on a very low sense in general. I think most people would consider a 7.5 relatively slow. If you're looking at most YouTubers when they're making content, they're like at 10.10, 11.11. You can see you got the perfect gas mask, making a gas mask play. Repositions himself out of the way. They did spot him. They call precision. He plays his life. He ends up getting one shot here, but he gets enough to get in here with like a sliver of health left. And he's constantly looking at minimap, health, middle screen. Minimap. He knows kind of where the guys were. He ends up baiting them out. And it looks like he's in a 1v1 situation now. And he has a good idea of where that last guy is. Kind of at the wall, a little bit out of his sight line. Now that he doesn't, now once he knows that that guy is a red dot, you can pull out the heartbeat and guarantee that the guy is going to pop up on there because it popped up as a red dot. If it was invisible, no reason to pull out the heartbeat. 1v1, you play your life. He goes to peek this side really quick. He ends up spotting the guy really quick, comes out and just decides to continue to use cover. If he peeks out too early, ends up getting a little bit demolished there. So he ended up having a pretty solid game there. And that's 100% on a console with the controller. Obviously, he did a little bit more than his teammates there, but that's kind of how it goes. I highly recommend checking out Reidboy. Like, in my opinion, he is the #1 console player right now. I know a lot of people have switched over. He's pretty adamant about not switching because I think he likes being known as the #1 console player with over a 5.5 KD. So if you want to pick his brain, check out his streams. Like I said, he's very interactive, streams daily, which I'm going to leave near the top of the description. Enjoy the video, learn something new. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you want to find your way back, double check, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Appreciate y'all supporting the channel. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.